Hey, this is Jeff. Welcome back to Coito Ergo Sum, Let's Talk More Action, a series which, like all good things, must eventually come to an end, probably next week. Today I'm going to cover everything you need to know about publishing magazines, after which we'll probably just have a few bits and pieces and loose ends to tie up. So if there's something about the mod that I haven't covered and you'd like to see, now's the time to leave a comment. So let's talk about publishing. Haley told us the formula for a successful issue of the magazine when we started the quest. If he's dead or retired before you start the quest, you can get the same information from the layout terminal, which is right up here in the basement. Actually, before I read that one, last week I said I'd talk about the compositron, or compositron algorithm. This terminal puts Lollipop's advanced compositron technology at your fingertips without noisy robots, which in Quo Vadis they were. The patented compositron algorithm will automatically place the model in a setting from stock art or environment photographs you provide. So what that really means is the pictures that will be on the magazine aren't real-time screenshots from the photo shoots. In fact, you don't have to use the camera at all. You can just stand in the corner if you want. But if you're wondering, like, hey, I took pictures of her in the studio, I didn't take this picture of her standing in front of her store, that's why. Anyway, here's the layout advice. Welcome to the Lollipop's editorial staff. Picking the right mix of models greatly influences circulation. Try to stick with our tried and true formula. 1. Covers sell magazines. Broad appeal doesn't necessarily mean the prettiest face or the biggest tits, or dick. Covers featuring a celebrity or a model with a hook can easily double the sales of an issue. 2. Open strong. The foreplay pictorial is the first thing readers will see. Get them excited with some eye candy up front. 3. Close sleazy. When readers get to the big finish pictorial, they don't want to stop stroking until they flip back to the other models. Send them off with the one who most personifies sex, sex, sex. 4. Theme issues are always popular. Exclusively featuring models with a shared hometown, occupation, or other affiliation is sure to sell. You probably got sick of hearing me talk about the appearance, attitude, and appeal bonuses for the models while we were doing photo shoots, but this is what that was all about. The cover girl, or guy, should have a high appeal bonus, which is moderately intuitive, since it should be somebody who is lore-wise famous or exotic, so they'll catch the customer's attention when it's sitting on the shelf. Picking a good model for the cover is more important than the other two sections in the formula that calculates magazine sales. The foreplay model should have a high appearance bonus, and that's the most subjective section. The bonuses for all three sections were determined by a survey, and in many cases I disagree with the appearance bonus because, everybody's tastes are different. And finally, the big finish model should have a high attitude bonus. Now, this one's the easiest to tell because of how they act during the photo shoot. If they act bored or shy, they're bottom tier. If they dance or pose dramatically, they're middle tier. And if they do naughty things, they're top tier. I'm using the cheat sheet from the optional files section of the Nexus page for the mod. If you don't like that kind of thing, there is an immersive way to confirm a model's bonuses, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the next thing strategy-wise is which magazine to publish. Short version, my first 12 issues will all be Lollipop's magazine with female models. He3 magazine with male models has a slight sales penalty, so a perfect issue of He3 won't sell as well as a perfect issue of Lollipop's magazine. Belthan actually researched real-world circulation figures, and adult magazines targeted at straight men outsell the ones targeted at everybody else by some ridiculous margin, like 10 to 1 or maybe more. The gap isn't nearly that drastic in the game, but there is a gap, so there won't be any He3 in the first 12 issues. So, set Lollipop's magazine layout. Now, in Quo Vadis, you didn't have to set the editorial focus, presumably because Larry wrote the editorials. There is definitely a big element of strategy to this if you're publishing as you go. Supporting the NCR gets you a little bit of NCR fame and Legion infamy. There are a ton of models who are easier to persuade to pose if you have a good NCR rep. That's what Courier Haley did in the old walkthrough because she couldn't do a lot of the quests that would otherwise get you NCR fame. However, it hurts sales a little bit because people don't want their porn to be that political. ridiculing the NCR gets you Legion fame and NCR infamy, which probably not a lot of people do unless you're desperate to boost your Legion reputation for some reason. Or I guess if you actually side with the Legion, publishing propaganda is a way to justify participating in something like this that would ordinarily be way too profligate to even consider. And like the NCR editorial, it hurts sales a bit. Humor, tech, and culture is the default option, no effect on faction reputation or sales, and it eventually makes the speech challenges for a few models a little bit easier because people think the magazine is classy, at least for the genre. Pure erotica increases sales, but makes some speech challenges harder because they think it's sleazy. Since my fame is already maxed with the NCR and Legion, and I've already recruited every available model at this point, and I'm just shooting for a high score, we're obviously doing that, pure erotica. And now we get down to setting the layout. By the way, this screen takes a while to load right now because every terminal in the game displays text one character at a time, like it's coming across a slow network connection, in line with the retro-futuristic look and feel of the game. You get used to it on screens with only a few lines of text, but it just had to fill in 80 lines or something because my list is so long, so you definitely notice the lag. Cover girl, Sarah Weintraub, owner of the Vault 21 Hotel and Casino on the Strip, very famous, top-tier appeal. Foreplay model, Kate, Michelangelo's assistant, a case where I agree with the survey that she's lovely, top-tier appearance. Big Finish model, Joanna, who got pretty raunchy right in the middle of the Gomorrah courtyard, top-tier attitude. All residents of the Strip, so it gets a theme bonus. Generate output file. Output file queued, select back to revise the layout and generate a new output file. Otherwise, close this terminal and start a print job at the press console. Note, while the output file is queued, you can still revise the layout. When you start the print job, the layout is committed and no further changes will be possible. You can print additional copies of any back issues at any time. Now, I mentioned that there's an immersive way to tell if you've made good selections before you actually commit the layout. After you complete A Cure for All Ills Part 1, you have the option to call Larry, talk about a variety of things, including getting his opinion of the layout. So let's give him a call.
Larry Slater speaking.
Before I print it, what do you think of the current layout?
A masterpiece of composition. The common threads between the models make it read almost like a novel. A novel with dirty pictures, of course.
What do you think of my choice for the cover?
Utterly captivating. A perfect choice.
What do you think of the foreplay model?
Extremely attractive. To these eyes, the perfect foreplay model.
What do you think of the Big Finish model?
The sexuality practically drips off the page. The perfect Big Finish model.
Okay, thanks for the advice.
My pleasure.
Goodbye.
Until we speak again.
All right, now we go over to the printing press console around the corner. Start a print job. If we hadn't already set up a distribution deal, this option would be to print a box of magazines, which we would then need to take to a vendor and sell. You can print multiple boxes, but when the market gets saturated with that issue, they aren't worth anything. So if you print more, you're just wasting paper and ink, and it's time to start a new issue. If you want to see how that works, you can watch the old walkthrough. I don't remember which episode. It's one of the early ones. Belthan can put a link in the description. But since we did already set up a distribution deal with Cal, or we could have used Blake, they'll send somebody to take care of the printing and shipping for you. So commit layout and notify distributor. So that completes the objective to print some magazines, and we get a new one to publish 11 more issues. Now, one big difference from Quo Vadis is we can actually have multiple issues in the pipeline at once. We don't need to wait for one issue to be distributed before we can do the next one, which I'm going to do because there are several events that take place after you publish different numbers of issues. I think everything that will unlock new models happens by the time you publish 3 or 4 issues, so I'm going to publish 4 just to be safe. Issue 2 will be a Brotherhood of Steel theme issue. Pretty much all Brotherhood members are top tier of appeal because even though they're not famous, it doesn't get much more exotic than the mysterious vanished faction that once had a war with the NCR. Cover girl, Veronica. This can be a sort of memorial issue. I think enough time has passed for this not to be in total bad taste. You know you've looked at those nude pictures of Marilyn Monroe, so don't judge me. Watkins is top-tier appearance. I personally think Scribe Schuler is more attractive, but so says the survey. She's our foreplay model. Torres is top-tier attitude for her little peep show behind the armory counter, so she's the big finish model. Generate output file, rinse and repeat. Issue 3 will be a caravan theme issue. Cover girl is Alice McLafferty, obviously very famous as the manager of the Crimson Caravan, top-tier appeal. Foreplay model is Janet, formerly with the Crimson Caravan, currently with the Boomers, top-tier appearance. And the big finish goes to Cass, who got very naughty after a few drinks of whiskey, top tier of attitude. Issue 4, Followers of the Apocalypse theme issue. Julie Farkas is arguably the most famous woman in Freeside, top tier appeal, so she gets the cover. Foreplay model is Dr. Alvarez, top tier appearance, no argument from me. And Emily Ortal, who, as I mentioned when we recruited her, has a wild side that you might not realize unless you really dig into her dialogue tree. Top tier attitude, so she's the big finish. Generate the output file. Notify distributor. So the next time Cal makes a run back to the home office, he'll take all 4 issues and leave the money in our safe. Now, I feel like I've been staring at terminals and blabbing for hours, so let's do something that isn't that for a while. Now let's go see if Leslie is finished with the still. Yes, she is. The still actually has several components, which, in addition to increasing Saloon revenue, can also give you small respawning quantities of campfire recipe components and aid items. The main ingredient for alcohol is maize, which is why she needs to build the garden before she can build the still. Here we have a yeast vat, which doesn't give you anything useful, but can be activated like the others. There's a note from Leslie attached to the cover release. It reads, "You do not want to open that. Trust me." I'm sure it's quite stinky. This is a filter press. Activating it gives you 1 yeast, which you can use to make Cass's moonshine at a campfire, among other things. If you click it again, no cultures are ready to be processed at this time. I'm not sure how long the cooldown timer is, maybe 3 days? Over here we have the fermentation tank. This segmented tank can hold multiple batches of stock for the still at different stages of the brewing process. Once per week, you can draw a 6-pack of warm, bitter, virtually uncarbonated beer without impacting still production. None of the current batches are ready to be drawn. Sounds like a bad microbrew, but most of it gets further refined in the still itself, which is right here. When the fermentation tank is operating at full capacity, the still produces enough liquor to keep the saloon stocked. Each day you can take 1 bottle of the finished product for quality control or personal use. The current batch is not finished the distillation process. When it's ready, you get whatever liquor you prefer, whiskey, vodka, raw, ethanol, or whatever. It might be random, but I think you get a menu that lets you select what kind of liquor you want. I'll check that out later if I remember. Now let's give Leslie her final assignment. Well, that sounded kind of ominous. I just mean this is the last upgrade she can build. Chem lab. Create work order. Requires 15,000 caps. No problem. And go tell her to do it.
What can I do for you?
There's a work assignment for you on the terminal.
I'm on it.
We'll just walk her out. Make sure she gets there. The work site's at the far end of the valley from the garden, close to the rock slide here. And true to form, she's off to an energetic start. Yeah. Okay, back to magazines. Once you notify the distributor that the layout is committed, it's about a day before they pick it up and pay you. Once that happens, we'll be able to unlock some new models. Some of them just automatically have new dialogue options because they won't pose until the magazine has a track record, and others become available as a result of some of the other events that I was talking about earlier. And while we're passing by, let's see if the gardens respond. Yep, it has. Taking a couple ears for personal use has no impact on the still, by the way, nor will picking any of the other ingredients have any impact on the chem lab once Leslie builds it. Anyway, about the events that occur as you publish magazines. For one thing, we'll be able to hire a photographer who shows up at the saloon looking for work once you start publishing. You can assign her to get pictures of any character she already has in her contact list, plus any character you've talked to yourself. That wouldn't be a big deal at this point, except that there are a handful of characters who will only pose for her, for reasons we'll see when we talk to her, but basically because she's a respectable journalist, and even if you go with the humor, tech, and culture editorials, which I didn't, you're still a pornographer. And at least one of the characters that only she has access to that you can't recruit yourself is somebody who we will definitely be using for one of the first 12 issues. I think I mentioned this before, but you can keep publishing magazines after the quest is complete. The reason I chose 12 issues as the number for my high score attempt is, well, A, that's the number of issues you need to publish to complete the quest, which seems like a natural boundary rather than picking some arbitrary number like 10 issues or 20 issues. And B, that was also the number to complete the magazine quest in Quo Vadis. And in my playthrough of that, I did eventually achieve a perfect score for 12 issues. Which I might have mentioned, the quests are similar, but there are a few important differences that make a literal perfect score in Coito impossible to achieve and almost impossible to even calculate. Interesting lag. So I'm not claiming that the layouts that I'm going to use are the best options. You may very well be able to beat what I come up with. I'm just shooting for a new personal best. The exact differences, well, like in Quo Vadis, there were 2.85 times 10 to the 67th possible combinations for a full 12-issue run of the magazine, which is way the hell too many to find the perfect score by brute force. In Coito, there are only about 7.9 times 10 to the 65th, which is less than 3% as many total combinations, but 3% of way the hell too many is still way the hell too many. And finding the right combination for a perfect score in Quo Vadis was actually easier despite the bigger number because you knew the perfect score for an issue was 1,000 caps, hence the name of the quest, a picture is worth 1,000 caps. And you knew that a perfect score for the whole quest was 12,000 caps, 1,000 caps times 12 issues, and you knew the conditions to get it. Every model had to be in the top tier for the section she appeared in, and every issue had to have 2 theme bonuses, like all businesswomen and all from Rivet City. Who's shooting? Pretty sure it's not that gecko. I have the animal friend perk, so they're not hostile. I assume they ate whoever was shooting at them. Anyway, in Quo Vadis, right off the bat, you could eliminate any model who wasn't in the top tier for any section, and any model who was eligible for less than 2 themes. And some models could only be used one way, like the Project Purity scientists could only get a perfect score if they were all in one issue together, by which point the remaining models were down to a manageable number. Unfortunately, in Coito, it's theoretically possible to calculate the perfect score for one issue, but it doesn't matter because it's mathematically impossible to put together 12 perfect issues. In fact, I'm pretty sure that you don't want to publish any perfect score issues at all, because all the ways that I've found to put together an issue with 2 theme bonuses uses models who would otherwise be necessary for 2 or 3 single theme issues. And the total sales of 3 single theme issues is better than 1 double theme issue and 2 issues with no theme, which is important because as far as I can tell, you can only publish 8 or 9 single theme issues with perfect section bonuses. And for the remaining 3 or 4 issues, an issue with 1 theme and 1 model in the second tier for the foreplay or big finish sections sells exactly the same as an issue with 3 top tier section bonuses and no theme. And there's always a raider up here at the Highway Patrol office. Mm-hmm. So there are only a handful of models that you can weed out ahead of time, which means that unlike the small number of possible perfect score combinations in Quo Vadis that you can reach by logical deduction, the number of combinations that could lead to the maximum imperfect score in Coito is still literally astronomical. Man, the lag is terrible. I bet my hard disk is almost full. My frame rate always goes to hell when Fraps is struggling to find room to save the video file. Another event that I hope will happen, I briefly thought I was locked out of any interaction with the NCR after I failed Don't Tread on the Bear. Turns out I was only locked out of the NCR ending. I could still do their side quests and recruit them as models. More importantly, I hope that means that one of the events that'll happen is a visit from a civil affairs officer who can A, pose for the magazine herself, and B, authorize other NCR personnel to pose. That makes their speech challenges easier, which for the most part is water under the bridge, but there's at least one who won't pose at all unless it's been cleared with the brass, and that person is Ranger Ghost, which is why I came here. Which, now that I'm here, is dumb, because I need to talk to the civil affairs officer before I talk to Ghost. Fine. I'll save and check my hard disk space before I dwell too much on that stupidity. Okay, hard disk has plenty of room now. I actually wanted to go for one of the models who gets unlocked just from the magazine being in circulation, not Ranger Ghost, but I got blabbing and kind of ran down here on autopilot. So what's the easiest way to the strip from here? Back up 15 to Hidden Valley over the top of Scorpion Gulch and up 95, I guess. So I talked to Margerie when I first started recruiting, and she didn't have any dialogue options about it, which I assumed was because one of the quests I had already done to farm White Glove Society fame, presumably Beyond the Beef, because Ethel and Walter weren't hanging around by the monorail station, and they disappear from the game after that quest is complete. But I noticed on the cheat sheet that you can't even ask Margerie until there are at least 3 issues in circulation. Now, she still might not be available because of something I did in a quest years ago, but there's at least a chance that she will. Ow. Hey. Somebody got behind me. Now, I could shoot you, but actually, have you met my Securitrons? My new upgraded Securitrons? Come on over here. I'll introduce you.
Unauthorized entry detected. Unauthorized entry detected.
I don't think they liked him. Oh. Okay, I swear they were not here the last time I came to the Ultralux. I'm going to go back and watch that episode because I know they were not. Well, the good news is if I haven't completed Beyond the Beef, then Margerie can't be pissed off at me because of anything I said to Mortimer. Oh, we'll head in here and talk to her. Still nothing. Goodbye.
Ta-ta.
Right. The issues actually have to be in circulation, otherwise there's no way for her to be familiar with the content. Well, it's the middle of the night now. I don't know exactly what time it was when we notified the distributor, but it was early morning, so we should only have to kill a few hours. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Has the news reached California that I've resumed publication of Lollipops magazine?
Is that right?
Yes, and I'd love to have a classy, statuesque lady such as yourself pose for me.
Not right now. I've got to make sure my husband gets enough rest.
It would only take a few hours. He could take a nap in your hotel or tag along if he wants.
Oh, I don't know about that.
It's risque, but reputable. Back in the day, many distinguished women appeared in it.
Oh, well, all right then.
Fantastic. We can even do some sightseeing on the way to the studio.
Right. Let's get started.
I think that wouldn't have had a speech challenge if it was humor, tech, and culture. Get out the camera. Poor Ethel is in the bottom tier of everything. No fame or exotic appeal, not the appearance most readers expect from a model in an adult magazine, and not much in the way of attitude either. You know, I said there's only a handful of models that you can exclude outright from any analysis for a high score attempt. She's one of them. There we go. Were you aware that I'm a publisher? Perhaps you've seen my magazine.
Intriguing. Which one?
Like Ethel, if more issues are humor, tech, and culture, you could bypass her speech check. Since mine are all pure erotica, my only choices are be vulgar, which is pretty funny, but really offends her, or pass a speech check. I brought back Lollipops magazine. It was very prestigious before the Great War, you know.
I salute you, but that's all changed now.
Well, I need someone sophisticated and influential for an interview and photo shoot. Interested?
Yes, of course.
My studio is in Mountain Springs. If your schedule permits, we could go now.
Splendid.
Oh, right. Weapons got confiscated again. Switch back to the camera. Where's my Enfield? I think I just found a bug. I know my weapons got returned when we recruited Gloria at the Silver Rush, so it's not a design oversight. I don't know. Maybe it works for her if the magazine is classy and you don't have to use the speech challenge. Anyway, Margerie is obviously top tier of appeal, being the head manager of the Ultralux, but bottom tier of appearance and attitude.
How do you do?
Hope you don't mind if I don't walk you home, but I need to get back to the Ultralux before your greeter hawks my favorite rifle. In fact, I'm taking the train. Hopefully if I go back in without any weapons for them to confiscate, the Enfield will still be wherever they stored it. I mean, it's almost certainly still there, since the script that's supposed to return it never ran, but I don't know if I went in with more weapons, if the new weapons would overwrite what's already in the storage location. Probably not, but better safe than sorry. And moment of truth. No greeter. I think that's a good sign. Yes, there we go. Had me scared for a second. But it's all better. That's weird. I don't think I've ever seen a trooper wearing a cowboy hat before. I mean, rangers sometimes have all kinds of hats, but regular troopers usually have one of the standard issue helmets, if they have any hat at all. Never mind. Magazines to publish.
Excuse me. I'd like to have a word with you.
What do you want?
Scuttlebutt amongst the rank and file is that you're publishing brand new issues of Lollipops magazine.
And where there's government, there's censorship.
Hell no. A democracy needs a free press. As long as it doesn't compromise national security, of course. I want to make this a win-win scenario for both of us.
What do you propose?
For all of Larry Slater's disputes with the civilian authorities, he was a loud, proud supporter of men and women in uniform. All I ask is that the new issues carry on that tradition.
Well, you see, I am not going to be publishing any NCR propaganda because I'm trying to make money. I'll run my magazine as I see fit with no interference from you.
Spoken like a true news person. And a true news person has the objectivity to tell right from wrong. I'm sure you can see who's right, and who the eventual winners will be. Well, thank you for your time.
Hold on. It wouldn't hurt to have a civil affairs officer appear in the magazine.
Say again? I didn't quite copy that.
Now, if your NCR reputation is terrible, I don't think she shows up at all. If it's just low, you might only have this option, asking her to authorize other NCR personnel to pose. A bit higher, and you get a speech challenge to ask her to pose herself, which, although it doesn't say so, also greenlights other NCR personnel to appear in the magazine. But I'm idolized, so I can just automatically convince her. They'll never put a bird on your collar unless you show initiative. Carpe diem. Apparently I saved all the models with bugs for last. Nobody reads the interviews. They do read about the models. Likes, assault rifles. Dislikes, men in skirts.
This is either going to give me a commendation or a court-martial. Let's do it.
I don't remember any missing voice files for Benson in the old walkthrough, but my NCR rep wasn't this high, so there was an actual speech challenge, so presumably it's only missing for the option when your rep is high enough to bypass the speech check altogether. Anyway, Benson is in the second tier of appeal, that is 3 out of 4, not elite, but still good because she's a high-ranking officer in a public-facing role, and she's in the middle tier of both appearance and attitude. Benson appears after you publish 2 issues, so having her give the green light early is a big advantage for recruiting NCR models if your NCR rep isn't that great. It's only going to help me with Ranger Ghost, but still, every little bit helps. I'm really waiting for the photographer to arrive, because I'm counting on her for at least 2 models that the courier can't ask. And I think I saw her in the back of the saloon when Benson force-greeted me.
Hey there.
I'd forgotten about this. If you rescue Rachel from Vault 3, she's another one of the events that happens when you start publishing. Hello, Rachel. I'm glad you got away from Vault 3, but why are you here?
Because I owe you my freedom.
Don't mention it. I was in the neighborhood, so it was no trouble at all.
I bet you say that to all the girls.
No, but what I do say to all the girls is, would you like to be in Lollipop's magazine?
Sure thing.
Rachel is in the bottom tier of appearance, which I disagree with, but it's hardly the first time. She's also in the bottom tier of appeal, presumably because she's not famous, and this is one of the few cases where I disagree with an appeal bonus. You could definitely make a case that being kidnapped by fiends is sensational enough to justify a slightly higher appeal rating, sort of like the Goodspring Settler, like I was attacked by geckos, tabloid-style headline. And she's in the middle tier of attitude, which you can probably tell from the way she poses. Anyway, as soon as we're done here, we'll try one more time to talk to the photographer.
How's it hanging?
Fiona. And there she is, checking out Angie's stage routine. If you're not paying attention, you might think she's just another customer, but I think you get an email that tells you she's coming and be on the lookout for her. Don't want to interrupt her while she's having fun, make a bad first impression.
I heard you're hiring.
Maybe. Are you an entertainer?
No, I'm a reporter.
That's okay. Unless you're a virgin, you have all the experience you need.
Don't waste my time.
Then what do you want?
If you need someone to take pictures, I can do that.
I see. What kind of reporting do you do?
Battle stories, stuff like that.
I know reporters have to be persuasive, but what makes you think you can do erotica?
I'm a woman. They'll trust me.
Why would a mainstream reporter want to work for an adult magazine?
Same difference. Without free press, we'd all be slaves.
Okay, but why make such a drastic career change?
My last assignment, that was one messy fight. We lost. 2 killed, 3 wounded. It could have been me.
Enough about your qualifications. Let's talk about jobs.
All right.
You're sure you don't want to be a hooker? We can always use more hookers.
No.
So you can hire her as a photographer or a bouncer. Or tell her the last thing you need is the paparazzi hanging around get lost, but that's like throwing away money. If you hire her as a bouncer, it gives a very small boost to saloon income because of the increased security, and it actually doesn't prevent you from using her as a photographer on occasion, although when she's on a photography assignment, you don't get the bonus for having a bouncer. If you hire her as a photographer, you can try to negotiate the price, but there are less than a dozen models I can send her after at this point, so the bouncer bonus is actually more beneficial for me than the photographer discount. But it doesn't hurt to ask. I might be able to use a stringer. How much do you charge for a photo shoot?
200 caps.
Why do you need 200 caps just to take some pictures?
My fee. Their fee. Expenses. You know?
In the old walkthrough, there were a ton of models Courier Haley couldn't recruit personally because they were in locations that were too dangerous for her to get to. Unfortunately, she didn't have a high enough barter skill to get the discount. And what it says is true. At 200 caps a pop, it's not worth sending Deanna after models with low bonuses. Now, if you hire her early on and she recruits, say, 20 good models, hiring her as a photographer with the discount saves you 1,000 caps total. And it would take a long time for the bouncer bonus to net you that much. But I'm only going to use her for 2 models in the first 12 issues. And for 100 caps, I'd rather have her as a full-time bouncer and part-time photographer. And even if I publish more magazines after the quest is complete, it's still only a couple of 100 caps of savings. So I'll keep doing the photography, but you'd make a great bouncer. Interested?
That's not what I wanted, but why not?
Of course, immediately after hiring her as a bouncer, the very first thing I'm going to do is give her a photography assignment. Which is over here on the terminal where we gave Leslie her assignments. Photography assignments. Actually, let's look at that email before I forget. Photographer and to-do list. One of my Cali connections turned me on to a prize-winning war correspondent who's seen too much red, not enough green, and wouldn't object to taking pictures of something pink, if you catch my drift. If you get along, she'll copy her contact list and my little black book to your terminal. It will sync with your Pip-Boy, too, so anyone you know will be added automatically, and models who already posed will be removed. JT. So let's take a look at the remaining potential models in our combined contact list. Most of these can only be recruited by Deanna, regardless of whose contact list they come from. Alice Hostetler, who runs with a bad crowd and is probably one of JT's old customers. Allison Valentine, an engineer at the dam, definitely one of Deanna's. April Martimer, I was wondering about her. The player can recruit her, but only if you let the followers work on Eddie. I let the Brotherhood of Steel do it, and I wasn't sure if talking to her over the radio counted as having met her. Well, she could be one of Deanna's, but either way, good news. Corporal Betsy and Colonel Moore, probably Deanna's. Private Morales can be recruited by the player unless you ask literally 30 seconds after telling her you found her husband's body, in which case she gets a bit annoyed. Yeah, if you missed that episode, Mr. Sensitive here did exactly that. Good news is she isn't pissed at Deanna. Major Kieran, also recruitable by the player, but she disappears after you complete GI Blues, so she was long gone in my game. Apparently Deanna can still find her. Ranger Ghost, who I'm going to try again myself since Major Benson gave the green light. The Good Spring Settler, almost certainly from my contact list, and it's weird. that Courier 6 can't ask her personally. Great con armorer, ditto. I mean, we're best buds. I talk to her at least once a week. The King's groupies could be from any of our lists, and I guess it makes sense that the King would trust them more with a professional journalist than with me. Martina Grossbeck, kind of shady. She's probably JT's. Ranger Lineholm, probably Deanna's, but I know I've talked to her too. I guess she's the long tail of the persuasion bell curve, where no matter how high your NCR rep and speech skill, she'll only do it for someone with Deanna's sterling professional credentials. Red Lucy could be from any of our lists, and again, I guess professionalism carries more weight with her than a silver tongue. Although, since I've slept with her, you'd think maybe she could cut me a break. And Private Gilbert can be recruited by the player immediately after Boulder City Showdown, but then she disappears, so in my game, she's long gone. Anyway, Deanna's first assignment will be Red Lucy, who will be the cover girl for our Women of Westside issue. And, like Leslie, we need to go tell Deanna there's an assignment for her on the terminal. If you're interested in a photography assignment, someone else can watch the bar for a while.
Definitely. But I need 200 caps.
I think she already explained why, but maybe that's new. Why?
My fee. Their fee. Expenses. You know?
Yeah. There's an assignment for you on the terminal. Here's your advance.
I'm on it.
Usually after a model refuses, you can never ask again, which is why they have bailout options. So if your speech skill isn't high enough or whatever, you can politely change the subject. But Ghost's refusal didn't have any indication that it was a fail condition, so we might get a second chance with her.
Thanks for the assist. Wish others around here had your drive.
So far, so good. Did you know I got Lollipops magazine running again?
I bet you think you're pretty special, don't you?
Me? Nah. You, on the other hand. Hey, you should pose for me.
Why would I want to do that?
You have a body that would inspire the troops and scare the shit out of the Legion.
Yeah, I do.
Excellent. So find somebody to relieve you and do your part for morale. I already cleared it with the brass.
All right.
Yeah, recruiting her requires high NCR rep and high speech skill, both of which I have, plus the green light from Benson, which I obviously didn't have the first time I asked. But it wasn't flagged as a speech or rep fail. You know how speech challenges usually have a number in front of them if you're going to fail, like 50 out of 70, so you know your speech skill's only 50, but you need 70 to be successful persuading. Well, her dialogue didn't have that. It was more like, don't even go there. Well, I mean, it's Ghost, so it was a little ruder than that, but we did get a second chance. If she hadn't, we could have just sent Deanna after her, but we need to kill some time while Deanna recruits Red Lucy, so it's all good. Ghost, by the way, is in the second tier for appeal, good but not elite, and the middle tier of both appearance and attitude. Deanna's back, so we can give her another assignment right away. This one will be the King's groupies, who we need for a Freeside theme issue. And then we can go downstairs and set the layouts for the West Side issue and a few more. Issue 5, West Side theme. Red Lucy's the operator of the Thorn, one of the most famous people in Outer Vegas, top tier appeal, so she's the cover girl. Foreplay model, Pauline wins, top tier of appearance. Big Finish model is Sweetie, top tier of attitude. Commit layout, notify distributor. And we're kind of low on paper, really low on toner. It doesn't really matter because Cal or whoever does the work will refill it with enough to print as many copies as they need, but they charge extra for the service, so it saves a few caps if you keep it topped up yourself. Might as well show you how. This is mandatory if you don't have a distribution deal, because if it's too low, you can't print anything. The printing supplies are around the corner here in the basement, and you can buy more from Cal or Blake if you run out. Take a roll of paper, and one of each color ink, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Go back to the printing press console. Maintenance. Rolls of paper and canisters of ink are just normal miscellaneous items in your inventory, by the way. They aren't quest items, so they do have weight and they're pretty heavy. So if you're buying from Blake, make sure you have plenty of extra carry capacity. Add paper. Full capacity is 10,000 square feet, so that's almost full now. Maintenance again. Add ink. 68%, close enough. And back to the layouts. Since we were able to recruit Margerie, we can do a second issue with Residents of the Strip. And she's the cover girl, since she runs the Ultralux, top tier of appeal. Foreplay model is Dazzle, top tier of appearance. Liza O'Malley, who really cut loose when she got the chance to blow off some steam, is top-tier attitude, so she's the big finish. We can do a couple more while we wait for Deanna to recruit the King's groupies. Issue 7 will be a Business Women's Special. Cover girl is Francine Garrett, co-owner of the Atomic Wrangler, top tier of appeal. Foreplay model is Leah Gutierrez, also top tier of appeal, but using her here for top-tier appearance. And big finish is Jeannie Mae Crawford, who has a filthy streak lurking beneath her conservative rural persona. Issue 8 will be a tribal theme. Cover girl is Diane, not famous per se, but definitely exotic, one of the Great Khan's top advisors. Foreplay model is Keikata, top-tier appearance. And I'm not just saying that because she's my girlfriend. Big finish model is Brett, with top-tier attitude. Don't mean to stack an issue with former Pa Rump residents and my own current associates and employees, but they work better in this combination than some of the tribal models from the base game. Now, the question is, will Deanna get back before Cal picks up the magazines? It would be nice if she did, because then we could publish all 8 at the same time, but it doesn't really matter. I'm actually going to run back to the house and catch a nap. I don't really need food or water or sleep yet, but I want to make absolutely sure I get the well-rested XP bonus when we complete the quest. And where's the train? I guess I left it in town when I recruited Margerie. Whoops. Go upstairs and call it back. I am now well rested. Of course, now I'm hungry. Get a drink while I'm at it. And Deanna is back with pictures. Perfect. Back to lollipops. Now that Deanna's back with film of the King's Groupies, issue 9 can be a Freeside theme issue. Cover girl is Gloria Van Graff, owner of the Silver Rush, top tier of appeal. Foreplay model, actually models, the Groupies, top tier of appearance. It'd also be in top tier of attitude, but the Atomic Wrangler Crier is top tier of attitude. Particularly impressive since she just dropped her shorts and got pretty raunchy right on the street corner where she works. She's only middle tier of appearance, which is why I'm using her for the big finish and the Groupies as the opener. And now we're into layouts that aren't perfect. Well, none of them have been perfect in that none of them have been double theme bonuses, but they all had one theme and 3 top tier section bonuses. Now we're into layouts with significant imperfections. Issue 10 might not. The cheat sheet has separate categories for NCR enlisted personnel, NCR officers, and NCR rangers, and I am mixing and matching across those categories, but they are all NCR soldiers, so I'm hoping they still get a theme bonus for that. The cover girl, Marie Papas, head of the MPs on the Strip, is top tier of appeal. Foreplay model, Ranger Kudlow, top tier appearance. Big finish model, Comm Officer Lank, who, like many models in the top tier of attitude, gets naked in public and doesn't care who's watching or what they see. Issue 11 will be a doctor's theme. Cover girl is Dr. Usanagi, runs the New Vegas Medical Clinic, very famous, top-tier appeal. Foreplay model, Dr. Strauss, who's only in the middle tier of appearance, our first less-than top-tier section bonus. Big Finish model is Dr. Luria, who found modeling to be an even more satisfying occupation than restocking the fridge at the follower's safe house. Top tier of attitude. Generate the output file. Actually, let's talk to Larry before we commit the layout just to make sure I'm right.
Slater, go.
Before I print it, what do you think of the current layout?
A masterpiece of composition. The common threads between the models make it read almost like a novel. A novel with dirty pictures, of course.
Yeah, Cover and Big Finish are grayed out, which means we've heard them already, so they're top tier, but foreplay dialogue is new, as I expected. What do you think of the foreplay model?
Certainly not unattractive, and perhaps I'm limited by an East Coast sensibility. Not a bad choice.
Yep, middle tier. Thanks for the advice.
My pleasure.
And finally, issue 12. No theme. I'm just picking 3 models who are top tier for their sections. The cover girl is Raquel. Top tier appeal because it doesn't get much more exotic and attention grabbing than a senior officer with the xenophobic and isolationist boomers. Foreplay model will use Sunny Smiles, usually the second character you meet in the game, and love her or hate her, top tier of appearance. Big Finish model. Let's see. How about Layla, the NCR deserter we met at the Vicky and Vance casino, who tried to extort us, but when we made her a counteroffer, she got naked and started twerking right in front of her gang and the hostages and everybody. Attitude doesn't get much more top tier than that. Generate the output file. And let's see what Larry says about an issue with no theme.
This is Larry Slater.
Before I print it, what do you think of the current layout?
It doesn't appear to have a theme that would resonate with readers, but you know your market better than I do.
Alrighty. Thanks for the advice.
My pleasure.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And back to the printing press console. Yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to cover everything to do with publishing in a single episode so it'd be more convenient for people who want to use it as a reference, but I think it's a lot longer and a lot more repetitive than I expected. And that completes A Picture is Worth 1,000 Caps. So now we've finished all of the marked quests in the mod. I'm going to go home, get some food, water, and sleep while we wait for the purchasing agent to pick these up, and then we'll take a look at the sales figures. I always forget what you can and can't do on the terminal in your house. I know you can check Saloon finances, and I think you can check magazine sales. Yep, magazine stats. And the final sales totals are, drumroll please, Issue 1, Residents of the Strip, 360 copies. Issue 2, Brotherhood of Steel, 360 copies. Issue 3, The Caravanners, 360. Issue 4, Followers of the Apocalypse, 360. Issue 5, West Side Residents, 360. Issue 6, More Residents of the Strip. Issue 7, Businesswomen. Issue 8, Tribal Models, 360. Issue 9, Freeside Residents, 288. What went wrong there? That should have been another 360. Don't know. Issue 10, NCR Soldiers, 315. Looks like we didn't get a theme bonus because we mixed and matched officers with Rangers. Issue 11, Doctors. The foreplay model was the middle tier, 315, which, like I said, the theme bonus and middle tier foreplay model should sell the same as an issue with all top tier section bonuses but no theme. Issue 12, another one with no theme but all top tier section bonuses, 320. would have thought it would be the same as the last two, 315, but it is not. Okay, in addition to all the factors I explained earlier, which make this hard, apparently my understanding of the sales calculation isn't even 100% accurate. And somewhat anticlimactically, I'm 90% sure that's a personal best, but I can't say for absolute certain. I never wrote down my scores from doing this quest with other characters, but I was using the cheat sheet and a conscious strategy this time, so it would be an incredible fluke if I had ever done better just using intuition. I can say for sure this blows away Courier Haley's score in the old walkthrough. Her options were severely limited because she couldn't recruit models from any place even remotely dangerous. I watched the old video and she ended up with total sales of 2,570 copies, so this run was about 50% higher than that. Anyway, I'm going to call it a day, and next week we'll wrap up the series. We'll check out the magazine covers and the Luma screens, which are usually the first thing I play with in this mod, but I was too busy running the business. There are the complimentary hard copies of all the issues we published. I don't think I've touched a Luma screen since we fixed them in episode 1, but they can display all kinds of artwork besides just the women with lollipops that you always see every time I'm in the saloon, including they can display pictures of the cover girl or cover guy, the foreplay model, and the big finish model for every issue of the magazine that you publish. We can also see how the chem lab works when Leslie gets it finished, make one more movie with a slightly different approach to casting than I used the first two, tie up a few other loose ends, as well as any suggestions in the comments for things I missed up to this point. And apparently my girlfriend is ready for bed, so I'm just going to close the doors, turn off the lights, and we'll see you next week.